Okay, guys, hello and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today, guys, we've got with us John Walsh, the co-founder and CEO of Endera. John, hello, how are you?
Doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Good. Thank you for coming on. So a little bit about Endera. I'm going to give the floor to you in a second. So just a little bit about Endera and what you do. A vertically integrated transportation technology company specializing in commercial electric vehicles, charging stations, and software solutions, seeking to disrupt the way people use transportation. Okay, so very nice last sentence there. Tell me, how are you disrupting the way people use transportation?
We are manufacturing commercial electric vehicles, particularly a shuttle and Type A school bus. These are markets that are ripe for innovation. They're very age-old industries, very mature. There's not a lot of young, innovative talent going into these industries. No one leaves college saying, I want to work in buses. And so that brings a lot of opportunity, though, to reinvent and rethink how people move around our planet. And the benefits of electrification in these markets are that everything's somewhat fixed and planned. So we know exactly how many miles a day these operations are going. We know how much electricity they're going to be using. We know when they're going to be charging. And there's also a lack of technology from a software perspective applied to this industry. I don't know about you, but I could wait for 10 minutes with Uber and twiddle my thumbs and I know it's going to come in 10 minutes, but a bus could be 5 minutes away and I have no idea and I have anxiety. And so these are some of the areas that we're trying to enhance the customer experience, get more people in buses. That's the best way to reduce our environmental impact on the planet and moving around, and just to get more people in an electric bus and to enhance that experience while at the same time making it clean to do so.
Interesting. Okay. So tell me a little bit about these technologies that you're using as well here. So I see you've got a few products going forwards here. So you've got Endera Go, Endera Dispatch, and Endera Management. Tell me a little bit more about these.
Sure. So Endera Go is our rider app. So riders can download the app. They can see the estimated times of arrival. They can see seat availability. They have a bi-directional mechanism of communication with their operators. So you can give feedback, Boston found, all of those good things. And that feeds into our broader dispatch platform where operators are able to see and manage their fleet and they're able to also automate all the reporting and compliance. So data is a very, very big focus for our company. And data is right now not collected in this industry in a meaningful manner. And so not only are we able to have feature sets in our app that are aimed to have more of an Uber rideshare-like functionality, but we're collecting the data that sets the stage for expanded feature sets down the road by knowing how many people are on the bus, when they're on the bus, the time periods, and the frequency, so that we can lower our operators' cost of doing business by maximizing their capacity utilization. So the name of the game in this space is you want to have a butt in a seat, right? And by having that data, you can now actually implement predictive analytics, tell an operator what the demand expectations are going to be so that he can optimize the size of his fleet. A lot of times there might be too many buses online, and you can do the same route with less buses while not compromising the experience. A lot of times and so all of this data that we're collecting the rider app, as well as dispatch that's meant to manage all of that data, it is what we're intended to accomplish with this software offering.
Amazing. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the beginning. Okay, so the origins of Endera as well. So where did the idea come from? Obviously, you and your co-founder came up with the idea. Where did it come from? You're saying that you don't come out of university and think about obviously buses and how these things work. What were you doing before which pushed you towards this kind of direction?
Yeah, I was in private equity and I was assigned to energy and transportation companies. And I got assigned an electric bus company, and I was on the ops team and I was doing business development and got to learn the ins and outs of EV. And this was in 2017. And so it was even much more in its infancy than it already is now, but there's been an extreme acceleration since then. And I saw that the transit market was really having a significant amount of tailwinds prior to the pandemic, because all of the properties not only had environmental proposition, but there was an economic value proposition. Operators lower their costs of moving people by 80% when they adopt. And so it's a cheaper solution in addition to a more environmentally friendly solution. And so both of those are reasons where this industry is really ripe to accelerate. And so I'd always been in clean tech my entire professional career, and I saw it as a tremendous tailwind. And so after a year, I started Endera.
Okay, how old were you, if you don't mind me asking, when you started Endera?
I just turned 25 when I started Endera.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 25. Talk to me about this. 25, starting Endera. Did you imagine Endera to be as big as it's become so far? And one specific question I've got here: what did you think then, which you definitely know now doesn't exist?
Good question. So I think that when I first started Endera, I was subcontract manufacturing everything out. I don't know. I didn't know at that point in time really anything about manufacturing. I didn't start the company thinking I wanted to create a vertically integrated EV bus company. Really, one of my lessons learned was when you start a company with a contract opportunity, all of the problems that follow become great problems to have. I had started clean tech companies prior to this, and I had a concept, and I was trying to fit a market, and I had focused on trying to build the concept, and I had put less emphasis on the customer and the assurance of a product market fit. And so when I thought of starting this company after those experiences, I focused on the contract, and I treated my idea as a hypothesis to an experiment. And I went out with the intent to constantly try to be proven wrong. And so by doing so, one, you don't fall subject to the perseverance myth, which is very real in entrepreneurship, is people don't shut down when they should, and they mortgage their house. And so by being a skeptic and then being proven wrong, everything became good problems to have, and I knew exactly what to build. And so what I did was I started in a very scrappy, lean way, and I subcontracted out all the work. I found a powertrain kit. I found a complete chassis supplier. I found a bodybuilder, and I found an AC system. And back then, AC systems, they didn't exist for EV. Everything ran off the fan belt. Well, there's no fan belt to use for HVAC. And so all these things, and I had to make everybody work together. And that's easier said than done. We've gone to the moon and back, but it's the people problem, the challenge in starting a company. And so after deploying our initial pilot clients with the subcontract manufacturing model, it became very evident that I needed to vertically integrate to control my own destiny. And so I grew this company based off of leading indicators and data to show us where we needed to go and where we needed to point, rather than taking my assumptions as incontrovertible truths. And you can grow a lot quicker that way. So I did not expect the rapid level of growth that we've experienced. I didn't predict the acceleration of climate investing due to pandemic being a catalyst. And I thought it was going to be a lot slower. And so I think that one thing that I know not to be true is that you can't just come up with a design and sub everything out and have all of your suppliers be in control of your destiny and your brand. So the model that we had when we first started of subcontract manufacturing is phenomenal on paper, right? I get to fix my margins. I don't have to deal with building anything. And I can focus on all the software products, the recurring revenue that you get that can lower operators' costs, but have a great margin. I needed to build the vehicle. I need to control those elements because an automotive brand is the predominant IP. I mean, no one cares about the patent of a Bentley steering column from 2012, right? But they care about Bentley being a trusted brand that provides quality product and delivers and services those vehicles time and time again. And so I think that at first I thought that it was going to be a lot easier to just shovel everything out to someone else, but In practice, it's the people problems and wanting to control those variables that is how we were able to grow so quickly.
So it didn't work that way that you first imagined those. So tell me a little bit more of that. You're saying actually you went out to be proven wrong. Does that mean you had a more kind of a negative view on what you were doing, on work, on life? Were you more positive or negative? And how did that help?
Well, I think that you have a hypothesis and you're constantly trying to disprove it because you're trying to look unbiasedly at the equation. And entrepreneurs tend to have tainted bias in their ideas. And that's something that I felt subject to in my prior companies. And there, my first startup, I should probably shut it down a year before I did, but I failed to accept failure. And I've had a great mentor who wrote a book called Fail Fast, Fail Often. And I fully believe in that. And so a long drawn out failure has the added cost of time. And so going at it as a skeptic, I think is a better approach.
John, tell me then, what is your rule to knowing when to throw in the towel? When is the failure? When do you know you failed and you can no longer resolve this? Because so many people will spend so much time, as you might have then for the year, to try prove to yourself that no, it's not a failure. When do you know when to quit it and move on?
It's not a cut and dry answer. I think that really you've got to have a lot of ingredients to make a company succeed. You've got to have a great market where you have a competitive advantage. Niches are beautiful because you could be a big fish in a small pond and identify areas that are overlooked that have a lot of opportunities for innovation. You have to acknowledge the timing and making, I think that's probably one of the single most important ingredients. I'd rather take a mediocre idea with a great management team and perfect timing than a brilliant idea that's 10 years too far in advance, or an idea that's too late and you've already had saturation and increased level of competition. And it's really organic to what the business cycles are, right? When you first start something like AI right now is so broad, there's a bunch of startup companies trying to come up with AI products. And then as you start hitting that business cycle of growth and momentum, then consolidation starts occurring, acquisitions start happening, and then you get to a more mature industry with a normalized growth rate, normalized margins, and then eventually either a decline or an inevitable commoditization, a highly regulated industry. And so you've got to look at that timing, and you've got to look at the traction. And you have to lead with the client, right? I always take that as the most important thing. If you're getting actual validated data that people will buy, that someone will buy, and if people buy X, you can have the opportunity to make X, and the market size is this, and the competitive landscape is this, and so I think that the momentum is a big thing, and also the people you bring in. I mean, the people are the most important ingredient in this equation, and making sure that you can unify people and drive people towards a common goal. I think that is a very easy thing to say, but very hard in practice. To get everybody to row on the boat, go in the same direction, and to be inspired is very challenging. And so you've got to make sure you have those ingredients, and it's all reinforced with wins, collective wins of, yeah, we've got a client that says I'll buy for this price. So now you're driving things to your requirements. And in order to achieve that, you got to hit the timing right.
Yeah. About timing, you're talking there about, you've spoke there twice now about obviously the team and the difficulties with the team, something that you didn't expect at the beginning as well. What has been, so you're talking about obviously getting people to see the vision and work for the vision, work towards the vision. What has been the most difficult thing with regards to building your team? Was there a number, for example, was it the first couple of guys and girls that you got on the team? Was it the next 10, what was the hardest moment for you and why?
So you can determine who you work with internally, and you can determine who you work with externally. And really only until you start working with them do you really know how it's going to work. And I think that externally is a lot harder because you've got to make sure that their interests are aligned with your interests, and that there's a win-win outcome. And that can be great and all those leading indicators are saying this is a great relationship today, but then in a year, are those interests the same? So looking out for that, I think, is a very important thing. And getting it right, getting the right partnership could make or break you. Having the right cap table, having the right cap structure to incentivize investment and make sure everything is fair and equal and equitable, both backward looking but forward looking. A lot of times proportions might not be correct for the future, but they were in the past, and managing all of those. And you've got to be a unifier as an entrepreneur, and be a fiduciary at heart and try to do right to everybody. And keeping your word, under promising, over delivering. That's a very important thing with people, and having a continued level of engagement and unification. If you start being known as a person that doesn't keep your promises, or doesn't do what you say you're going to do, all of that can erode very quickly.
Beginning to the end, as soon as that starts happening, and a very easy trap to fall into. Tell me where, so you're talking about your partners and people that you outsource to. Where do you go to? Do you stay in the States when you're doing it? Is it the country, is the area where you're able to find those people that work for you, or does area location not have any say on it? Is it really how you work with the people?
So you're talking about from a hiring standpoint or a partnership standpoint?
A partnership standpoint, a more outsourcing kind of standpoint.
Yeah, I think it depends on the markets. So there's obviously right now a big nationalist movement and trying to bring things into the U.S. as much as possible. I think that you just have to be selective in the areas that you decide to offshore, the areas you decide to inshore, and what the cost benefits are to your organization. Our factory is in Ohio, and so we're manufactured in the United States, and we like that. And the equipment's being used in the United States. And in general, in automotive, there's pretty protectionist level policy to have domestic production to some degree here. So it is all selective. There's no one size fits all to this answer. A lot of automotive companies use Mexico. There's a lot of tax policy that drives it, but it's really the relationship at hand that you're dealing with, and vetting those pros and cons and putting it through a process that's important.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about your personal goals right now. So I've seen you've got the Forbes 30 under 30. And I've noticed when firstly, congratulations. And secondly, I've noticed when a lot of people have this, they obviously wear this like a medal. It's a huge achievement for people to have. And they wear it like a medal. It's on their LinkedIn. And I want to know, how does it help? How does it help the company? Does it help the company move forward? Does it bring some kind of recognition, some kind of honesty with the company? How have you feel this award has helped you at Endera?
Sure. I mean, I think that recognition is always good, and Forbes is a great, very reputable organization. I think it doesn't ensure success, though. It's the practices and principles that got you recognized that I think would, and not every Forbes 30 under 30 has a successful company at the end of it, and so that's not a guarantee by all means. I think it's more the practices and principles that you abide by that are the determination of success.
Okay, interesting. Tell me about your experience in Shark Tank. I used to watch Shark Tank a lot. I haven't seen the episode, if it was an episode that you were on. Tell me about that experience, and what did that teach you?
It taught me that I can handle any investment meeting after that experience. I was never aired. And so I had just gone through it and pitched in the tank to everybody. And it's an investment meeting on steroids, to say the least, because not only are you being grilled, but you've got cameras everywhere, and you've got to sit in a certain marker and do all those different things. And, but it was a brutally honest set of feedback off the cuff from a third party with about 30 to 45 seconds of information. And that was valuable. And what it did teach me is it was a prior startup that I inevitably closed down that company. And I think they were an ingredient in the reasoning why. I was frustrated at first, just based on how I felt I was just being kind of used as a toy a little bit. But I think that looking back on it, without the emotion, it was sage feedback that they had given me. I was going back to the whole product market fit thing and the order of operations that I underwent to try to get this company started, that it aided to my eventual realization that you want to focus on the contracts and the client requirements first, and then the product second. So it was an emotional experience. It was a lesson learned, but it was valuable in terms of my approach and thought process to building a company.
I can imagine it's one of those things where, you know, any feedback is good feedback. At the end of the day, it's how you take it, what you do with it. Okay, last question for you. So what is your mission? What is John Walsh's mission, and will you achieve it?
John Walsh is not Endera's.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you're saying? I mean, you ask a lot of high-level philosophical questions of, I got an econ degree, right? Which is how the world works.
They're not connected together, I guess, but at least now in your...
To some degree they are, I would say. And so, you know, in economics, right, it's a degree in sort of how the world works. And there's a famous line of Keynesian economics of, in the long run, we're all dead, right? In the short run, there's a lot of ebbs and flows, but in the long run, we're all dead. And so when you ask that question, what do I want to leave my mark on in this planet? And how do I want to leave the world is I a couple things. I want to leave the world having done something that contributed to society and that I felt and that the collective felt benefited society, and I want to be loved for it. And people get their purpose in their career and what they devote the majority of their life to. And by doing what I'm doing with Endera, it's achieving John Walsh's personal mission to leave an impact on the world and to do something impactful and meaningful for society, so that at one point when I leave the world, I'm loved for it, and that I've made a meaningful contribution. And so Endera is accomplishing John Walsh's personal mission by doing that.
Amazing. That's a really nice way to leave it. Really nice way. John, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy guy, so we've got to finish our time now, but thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm sure that our listeners will very much enjoy this episode. Thank you.
A pleasure, Matt. Take care.